Welcome to the Thornton Review.
The show designed with you in mind. If it's important to you, it's important to us.
Hi, I'm Pichelle Schneier, Executive Producer and Manager of the Thornton Review. Thank you for tuning in. Our guest on today's show is Joshua Roberson, candidate for Escambia County Commission in District 5. So, Josh, it's nice to have you on the show. Can I call you Josh, or do you go by Joshua?
You can call me Josh, that's fine.
Okay. It's great to have you on. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy campaign schedule to sit down and have a conversation with me. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, Ms. Pichelle Schneier, thank you very much for having me on. You're an amazing team. It's an honor to be here today and speaking with you. You're right, I am Joshua Roberson, and I'm a candidate for District 5, Escambia County Commissioner. Is that tell you about myself? So I'm married. I have 3 children, 2 of which have graduated high school and moved on. One's in her going into her 3rd year of college here locally at PSC. And one's decided that, hey, I'm not married, I don't have a boyfriend, I have no attachment, so she kind of wanted to see some things. So she is working out in Oregon on the Columbia River on a riverboat cruise ship. And then I have a 10-year-old son that attends Molino Park Elementary School.
Aw, yeah.
Yeah, and I recently retired, and I'm applying for my full-time job right now.
Okay, yeah, and we're going to dive into that and talk all about it, and I can't wait because
Yes,
I have
ma'am.
a lot of questions for you.
Okay, yeah, looking forward to it.
We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll begin our discussion with Joshua and his vision for Escambia County. There is no government-funded program that can guide a man's thoughts. Only God can do that. Alpha Fence Company can install any type of fence. When you call and mention the Thornton Review, you'll receive a $100 discount on your fence. They also offer military discounts. Vinyl fence, wood fence, aluminum fence, chain link fence. If it has the word fence, Alpha Fence Company can do it. 850-586-8020. 850-586-8020. Joshua Roberson is a candidate for Escambia County Commission District 5. Joshua grew up in Florida and Georgia. He enlisted in the U.S. Navy in 2002 and served 22 years. His last duty station was at Pensacola NAS. He and his wife, Becky, loved the area so much they decided to move to Barano Park in 2020, which is located toward the north end of Escambia County. He retired from NAS as senior chief in 2024. During his military career, Joshua served as aviation structural mechanic, firefighter, and basic medical responder. His military training gave him an understanding of emergency evacuation and preparedness, such as for hurricanes and other disasters, as well as experience and respect for police, EMS, firefighters, correctional officers, and teachers. Joshua believes that our first responders should be fully supported with training, compensation, and benefits. Public safety is high on Joshua's priority list, along with infrastructure, traffic concerns, and community growth and development. He'll work to provide his constituents with accessible leadership, fiscal responsibility, and environmental stability. Joshua enjoys spending time with his wife and their 3 children, watching college sports, coaching softball, and fishing. Okay, Josh, so thanks again for coming on. I've got a series of questions for you, and I'm going to start with number 1. What made you decide for Escambia County Commission?
Well, where I live, there was a lot of community members that were asking for a change, asking for something different. I don't want to use the word hope, but they were wanting a difference. And when my wife and I sat as a family and decided, hey, I'm going to retire. So after 22 and a half years in the military, we decided we're going to retire. The community accepted us as soon as we moved here. So it was an easy choice when I retired that this is where home is. I decided my service wasn't done, and the community that accepted us and decided for us to stay here, I can only hear things need to happen for so long, and then I'm going to go and try to do it. So I wrote a letter requesting permission to run for office while I was still on active duty, because that's what you have to do, to Secretary of the Navy. And it came back, and to follow in line with that, he said, yes, you can qualify. So I qualified, but there's rules involved, so I couldn't do anything until I was fully retired. And as of July 1st, I was fully retired, and that was the very first day I started to follow within those rules, and I started campaigning July 1st. So that's, and it's just because I heard the community wanting that change.
So was the transition for retirement easy for you? It probably hasn't even hit you yet, because you retired and then hit the ground running campaigning. It was just a full-time job, so.
I had some time off, a little bit in there.
Yeah.
And I did take a cruise with my family.
Okay.
I know, sailor on a boat, then I go back on a boat. But I've never been on a cruise that I didn't have to work on.
There you go.
But I did enjoy that.
But
that
you knew what to do if something happened.
That is 100% correct. But I enjoyed it. We enjoyed it, and had some great family time. And we discussed our future and how it looks. And I enjoy this. I truly enjoy this. This is very fun, very engaging. I get to hear people's concerns, their concerns. I get to hear the history of the families that's been here 70, 80 years, a long time history here.
There's a lot of us.
And I love hearing that. And I love hearing what most of all their concerns, and the people are getting their voice back. So I'm sure I don't know what the questions, I can't, but I'm sure we'll get there.
So, okay, well, here's a question. Why are you running as NPA?
Wow.
And did you, and I'm going to follow up that question with, can anybody run as NPA, or is it, you have to get some sort of special something in order to be able to run as NPA? I mean, okay, so go ahead.
So NPA, no non-party affiliation.
Yes.
Rest of the country, or not, maybe not the rest of the country, but a lot of parts of the country, it's independent. Okay. So
is there a difference between independent and NPA?
Well, here in Florida, it's NPA.
Okay.
That's how it's marked down. So as you look at it, it's I'm gonna say this, and I'll say that my stances and how I look at it is infrastructure with your local tax dollars. When you pay taxes, and you spend a lot of that local tax dollars here, and and it goes towards things like infrastructure. And I know that's a huge area, and we deal with roads or transportation infrastructure. You deal with your stormwater infrastructure. You deal with telecommunications. There's a lot of things involved in infrastructure. But I'm going to use infrastructure and just know that I'm using that blanket, right? And you deal with public safety, and you deal with EMS, you deal with sheriff's office, you deal with the fire, you deal with corrections. Excuse me. But also I'm going to lump, I'm going to go ahead and say teachers in there too, because they're dealing with the future leaders of tomorrow. But I'm going to say public safety, especially in these times now, just what's happened in the past week, and that's sad. Open and transparent governance. Look at all the many shade meetings we've had. Just our neighboring counties since the 80s, I think 0, and we're up there. We're climbing. Then you got accessibility to your elected leaders. Calling the office or coming to see somebody that you have elected as the people, and having that openness to be able to talk to someone, because the people are the boss. Right. That's who you represent. And then you also have adolescent programs. And what I mean by that are all the parks, county-owned parks around here. They say Board of County Commissioners on it, and then underneath it says Parks and Recreation Department. Right. Okay, so if that's already on the board, so all of those areas are represented by the county taxpayers. So I know you asked me a question, but I want to ask everybody listening. There's major parties, and I understand that there's two major parties that really have a shot here. But which one of those major parties has the market cornered on what I just mentioned?
Right.
And I'm not sure you can tell me either one. So what did I do? I chose the path of the people. And why did I choose MPA? Because I cannot faithfully sit here and tell you that I align 100% with either one of those parties, but I do align with 100% with people. 22 and a half years ago, I took an oath to this country, and I didn't care what letter was behind your name. I served this country to defend it against anyone, foreign and domestic, no matter what letter was behind your name. I am running as an MPA to serve this county and the local taxpayers of this county, the citizens of this county and the taxpayers, to provide those services I just mentioned, no matter what letters behind your name, because that's what local government should do.
Absolutely.
I'm here to serve everyone that pays the taxes, be the voice for them.
Right. It's like ECUA, Emerald Coast Utilities Authority. I think that should be a nonpartisan board because we're talking about water,
And
clean
sewage.
water,
And trash, right?
garbage, yeah. And, clean environment, clean water, but anyway, I don't want to start talking about
No,
that, but there are certain offices that should be NPA because how are you a Republican in the office of ECUA? Everybody has to have clean water to survive. So I can kind of understand for the county commission side, but there are certain things in county commission issues where people might want to know where you stand as
Sure.
far as on either side. I guess they can pick up the phone and call you
That's
and ask
100% true. Anybody that's listening or watching or knocking doors and talking to people. I know sometimes I'm 6'2", 250 pounds, and I get it. But I talk to anybody and everybody. I've never met a stranger. I'll answer the phone. I answer text messages. I know I missed one email that was about a month ago, and I apologized to that person
Right.
all the time, right?
Yeah.
And got back to them. But I'll talk to everybody, and I'll answer questions whether you like it or not. I'm going to answer.
Right, yeah. So, okay, as a non-elected official, what is the most important accomplishment that you have provided for Escambia County so far?
Well, I guess I can name a few.
Or what have you done to improve the community is another way to put it, I guess.
Yeah. And I think I want to take a direction on this, and I appreciate the question. But I kind of want to spin this maybe in a direction where it's not so grand as the county, right? And I'm up in District 5, and
Yeah,
when
District 5, yeah.
Yeah. So if that's okay, I thought about
Absolutely,
this
yeah.
when you started reading in it and changing the county, and I'm sure that I could tell you the big bright shiny thing and this over here and draw attention, but I do have something. And roughly 6 months after I had moved here, I met this gentleman. And I'm going to leave his name out of here, but he knows I talk about him and I bring him up. But he got me involved back into coaching, where I had coached before when I lived up north. And he got me back into coaching, and I didn't have a child on that team, and it was up at Molino Ballpark, the Don Sutton Ballpark.
Okay.
And one of the young ladies that I had coached, she was really having a hard time, and I think when you do things and you're volunteering and you're coaching and you're doing that, and there's so many coaches and there's so many volunteers and PTA members and there's so many people in the community, we tend to overlook the aspect, just reach one person, change one life. You know how effective that is? Like, in your lifetime, if you can only reach one, they can reach one or two. That's amazing. And I think we want to champion the greatest achievement we've done. And I think just affecting one person, and then they go off to college and they're able to further and I think, I don't want to go too deep into that, but because that person got me back into coaching on this local level here, and that was part of that community involvement that sucked me and my family in, and I love that aspect, and that's why we stayed. I was able to have interaction with this young lady in her last year in playing ball, and she's now off playing college. Oh, wow. She's off in college, sorry, not playing college, but she's off in college and bettering her life and moving on and going to be a great member and will be a future leader of tomorrow, and that's definite. Yeah. And I think that's when we start talking about accomplishments, that's what we leave behind, is what we leave in someone, because that's what we want, right? Is a better tomorrow. And how does that happen without leaving that to the next generation?
Yeah, that's important, to be a good role model to the younger generation. Sure. Absolutely. To nurture them and to develop them and to kind of steer them in the way that they should go. Right. Nothing beats.
I'm sure I can give you examples of this, this tree fell down and we moved it out of the way, and because that happens, but
just helping your neighbor.
That's right.
Seems like you've probably done quite a few things that people know about that you don't really like to toot your horn, do you? Which that could be a good thing also, because I'm sure people know what you've done, and I'm sure it's probably not just a little bit. So, okay, what do you see as the biggest problem in District 5 right now?
So, in District 5, I will tell you that, again, knocking doors and talking to people, I kind of knew this headed in, but now it's just cemented and confirmed. Matter of fact, last Friday, there was a Women for Responsible Legislation forum, and I had the pleasure of attending that, and I saw you there.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, I don't know if you were taking notes or you were like, oh, this guy, but no, I saw you there, and it was great to see you there. But I was asked a similar question to this, and I don't think it's just District 5, but I will talk about District 5, and I think it's the expansion of development.
Yes.
Right?
The overgrowth.
That is right. That is right.
It's like a growing explosion is what happened in the last few years. So
it's a land grab.
It's ever since Navy Federal went in. That's when it started.
Right.
And now it's just multiplied and compounded, and it's out of control.
And that's right. And you look at, and there's let's make no mistake, and there's a South Side District 5 and there's a North Side District 5, and there's a Middle District 5, and they're all vastly different. And I'm very aware of all of them. And I'm very well aware of the equities that all of them have and would like to maintain. For instance, you brought up ECUA.
Yep.
I don't have ECUA. I have trash.
Right.
But I have Molino water. Our neighbors have Cottage Hill water.
Yep.
And it
My
keeps going.
My parents have Farm Hill Utilities.
Right.
But they have ECUA trash.
Correct. So the trash, is one thing. So, and then septic, you don't have any sewer. So.
Yep.
So that changes as the further north you go. So you have to be aware of this, and the developments coming in. I'm not even sure they talk to those little water companies to see if the capacity's there.
Right.
So
I know, it makes you wonder.
I say I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure I know the answer to that. So what we're doing and what we're hearing is the more houses. Right, that means the more inventory, and the less the house will cost. Well, I don't see any evidence of that. I'm not a developer. I'm not a real estate agent. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not anybody that deals with that. I'm not a financial analyst.
As long as people will pay the price, it's going
to stay up.
Yeah.
Why would I take less money when I can take more money?
Yeah.
That's right. The issue with the development is we keep taking the developments. what point do we give the taxes back and update this infrastructure? I have maps. And I've seen maps from 2016 over on Divine Farm roads and up 97 where we have the nice, great new neighborhood, Iron Rock, and they're starting to build more up on Kingsfield Road to back into there. We knew it was coming in 2016.
Right.
Where's the infrastructure updates? Why has that not been done? Why is there not a firehouse available?
Yeah.
Why has the schools not been updated? Why there's three schools on Kingsfield Road. There's no shoulder, there's no pull off, there's no emergency vehicles trying to get by there. You got 10 Mile Road where there's 3 schools there with Ashland Rosenham soccer complex back there. 10 Mile Road floods and heavy rains. You have school traffic. You have the buses coming by for the soccer tournaments. What are we doing coming up Kimstrand Road with the buses because they can't get over the railroad tracks? So we're going to expand that now. That's I get it. I can keep going north, higher and higher and higher. The attention to 164. I'm going to keep going north with this conversation. The attention to 164. We know it's been bad. My attention was brought to 164 because someone shared with me a horrible, horrible event in their family. I'm not going to name any names on this, but their son was in a collision, a head-on collision where their vehicle caught fire.
Sorry to
right?
hear that.
Here's the thing. The state trooper couldn't find fault because the road is 16 feet wide at 55 miles an hour. 16 feet wide for the entire road.
So he couldn't tell who went into his
Highway
lane.
164. The feeder roads going into that road are 20 feet wide. How do I know this? Because I measured it myself. This happened years ago. Nothing's been done. Now all of a sudden this year they're going to pave and widen 2.1 miles. 3 bridges in the north end of the county over the summer were down. Highway 4, 168, and Gibson Road. Bridges down. Where's the maintenance in that? How are you going to fix bridges with a $2.2 or $2.4 million budget a year to fix bridges in the entire county?
And those are county maintained bridges, apparently. Okay. Well,
the state fixed Highway 4.
Okay.
That's FDOT. But I guess where I'm going with this is if we have these bridges that are failing, where's the maintenance in this? $2 million is not $2.5 million. I'll even be generous and say $2 million. I looked at the budget before I got here, but that's not enough.
Start a capital and improvement program and put it on the list, right?
There's grants out there, yes. There's grants out there for roads to be improved as well. I looked at the grant funding for the state. So where I'm going with this is when does the people's money go back to the people?
Right.
I mean, we can keep suing the citizens, and I guess we can spend our money there.
No thanks. Yeah, well.
So I don't know if I answered that question, but my biggest deal is development without reimbursement to the infrastructure, which then in turn also impacts public safety with not adequate roads or transitability.
Wow. Okay. That's a good one. Yeah. So what do you think about impact fees for developers?
I do agree with them. I said
do
that
too.
on Friday as well.
Yeah.
I think when you were there, I think I do. We're talking impact fees, and I know someone on the panel did. I don't know if they agreed or not, but I agree with them. We're not talking a starter home of what maybe you and I used to know of $75,000,
Right.
and would jack the price to an unaffordable. I mean, I haven't seen one of those in a while. We're talking
That $75,000 home you're talking about is probably $275,000 now today.
Correct. So we're
Yeah,
talking a fee
brand
that
new.
can be shared throughout this neighborhood that they want to put in. So are we really going to push someone over the limit on a $300,000, $325,000 home? I'm not sure. I'm not sure we're arguing that point.
I'm all for impact fees.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
if somebody's a good negotiator, they can get it from the developers. And we need good negotiators in county commission that can do that. I think Navy Federal should have paid the impact fees for 9 Mile Road, Highway 90, between the interstate and Beulah Road. And I don't think that was done. I think the taxpayers paid everything, or at least a good portion of it. But anyway, I'm for impact fees too. Thank you. What will be the very first thing that you do once you're elected?
Well, the very first thing, I'm probably going to look in to see where the people's money can be spent the best. Meaning, why are we... I appreciate the question, and it's making me think.
Yeah.
Because there's so many avenues I want to go down, but you said the very first.
I know, right?
So, and infrastructure is very high on my list, but so is public safety.
So you've got like 5 things that you're going to do first.
So I dealt with this for 22 years, and this is 22 and a half, and this is why this is kind of important to me. Politicizing public safety is just like politicizing the military that protects this country. Why do the politicians have to have a grip on public safety? Why can they not operate on the taxpayers' dollar by themselves? Why do they have to be politically controlled? They need to be free and clear of politics. There's no reason for politics to be involved in public safety.
Correct.
So how can we find a way to relinquish the political hold on public safety, whether it be EMS, sheriffs, firefighters, career or in the North End, or volunteers in the North End, to let them operate, and so they have a planned budget to know what they need to do the next year and the year after.
Do we not have enough EMS or ambulances? Because I know they're always on hold. They're like, and people call in, and it could be an hour before an ambulance comes. Or maybe there just aren't any ambulances available that day. I don't know. I don't know
that. I wish I could answer you that.
I don't really,
yeah. I know I have sat with Director Gilmore, and we have spoke, and I understand that position. However, I have not directly sat with the new EMS chief, so I don't want to speak on that. And the reason I haven't sat with him yet is I don't want to sit with him on first 2 weeks, right? I want to ask for a meeting after couple of weeks. That way he kind of understands. But I'm not going to make any bones about it. It's, you say, hey, you're holding calls, and they'll say, oh, no, we're not. And then if somebody speaks out, I've heard they get in trouble about it.
Oh.
So I'm not sure. And but I have spoke to Mr. Gilmore about it, and they do transfers, they do pickups. The problem is, here's the issue in the far north end of District 5. I know the south is a little closer. It's still out of there, right? Because the hospitals are downtown. Let's be there.
Yeah, we probably need another hospital closer to the north end of the district.
Well, there's no sewer up there, so.
Right, yeah.
So
we need the infrastructure, that's for sure.
Even if you, that's right. So even if you, let's say you live in Barron Park on Highway 99, and you have a widowmaker heart attack, and volunteers show up from wherever, and they're able to provide some sort of help and aid. The ambulance then arrives. The ambulance still got a 40-minute drive back to the nearest hospital.
Yeah.
So
life flight.
What are we talking about here?
Right.
So even if the ambulance does make it in 40 minutes from the hospital they're at to the north end, they still got a 40-minute ride back. So I don't want to go into are they holding it for an hour, or are they doing this? Let's look at the travel times if the ambulance is not stationed in the north end or being held there, or if they have to run a call, or they get pulled from there to go run a transfer from a box, I call them dock in the box, but from a freestanding ER to the hospital, and there's not one available already. Now you have to do the drive all the way up. Yeah. To the north end, or even mid District 5, and then all the way back. Right. So we're talking, it's a time game.
Sure. And you have to consider traffic.
But it's a time issue.
Yeah. If traffic's bad, then it's going to just add time to the drive, of course. So we're going to take a commercial break. Okay. I'd like to remind our viewers that the Thornton Review is a civic engagement show with a purpose to spread awareness by interviewing local elected officials, candidates, and professional leaders. This is information you won't get anywhere else. We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion with Joshua Roberson, candidate for Escambia County Commission at District 5. There is no government-funded program that can guide a man's thoughts. Only God can do that. Alpha Fence Company can install any type of fence. When you call and mention the Thornton Review, you'll receive a $100 discount on your fence. They also offer military discounts. Vinyl fence, wood fence, aluminum fence, chain link fence. If it has the word fence, Alpha Fence Company can do it. 850-586-8020. 850-586-8020. So, what will be the very first thing you do? As I think I already asked you that. What's the first thing? Yeah, okay. I'm sorry.
It was the politicize of public safety.
That's a big topic. We could talk about that all day.
We could, and I'm not. And again, I know we just came back, but I don't want to lose that emphasis on the infrastructure piece, because I think that goes hand in hand. Mm-hmm. Infrastructure and public safety. If they can't get to where they need to go, right, because people can't get out of the way, mm-hmm, right? So, but I do want to make sure that that's known as politicizing our public safety, mm-hmm, is not what we need to do. Yeah.
So when you say they can't get out of the way, you're talking about like a busy road that doesn't have shoulders, right, and an ambulance that can't go around them or go through them because they're on the road. There's no shoulders to get on. Okay.
That's right. I mean,
that makes sense.
All the way from the south. We were talking, mm-hmm, Kingsfield, West Roberts. We're talking 10 Mile. We're talking 164. We're talking. I can keep, mm-hmm, going on, mm-hmm, and on and on. Right. All the way up north.
Yeah. So that's where impact fees would come in, mm-hmm, to. Because we need infrastructure in place before they build these subdivisions. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we need the impact fees to build the infrastructure, mm-hmm, and, as they're building the subdivisions or even before they're building the subdivisions, because the land has to be improved before people reside there. Mm-hmm. You can't build a house without electricity,
That's right.
It's got to be improved.
That's right. But also you start doing all this developing and
roads. Mm-hmm.
Every house puts two more. I'm not going to say every house, but on average, every house puts two more cars on the street. Mm-hmm. And
at least.
Let's say every house has one kid, mm-hmm, one child. Well, every house is going to put another child in that school. Yeah. Well, who's paying for that school?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, mm-hmm, taxpayers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
$20 million, I think, was, mm-hmm, the last school built, right?
Luckily for that half-cent sales tax.
Sure. Lucky. I'm
going to have a show on that one of these days. I tried to, but somebody. So, okay, so we have to have infrastructure. We have to have improvements, and then we have the houses, but we have to have those impact fees in order to have the infrastructure and improvements. And that's just the bottom line. And I think somebody at the forum the other day said, well, yeah, I mean, if you do the impact fees, then the developers are just going to charge the buyers. So okay, it's going to go straight back to the buyers.
Okay.
I know. That's what I say. Yeah. Because those people buying those houses are using those improvements and that infrastructure in that area. And that's, mm-hmm, what the impact fees are going for. Mm-hmm. So, mm-hmm. So, and talking about sewer as opposed to septic, there are schools up in Molino, Barrow Park area. Mm-hmm. Are they on septic? I've never even thought of that.
Yeah, I don't answer that, but, mm-hmm, I'm sure there's no septic lines up. I mean, there's no sewer lines up there.
Right,
so, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Interesting. So it must be one big septic tank. And I guess that's why they wouldn't be able to build a hospital now up there, because I wonder if codes would require that a hospital be on sewer.
Probably.
And so
that'll be the first one of the things I'm looking into, and see what we can do.
Okay. So, what about term limits? Are you opposed to term limits, or what do you think about term limits for county commission? And if you are for term limits, like how long should a county commissioner be able to stay in that seat? How many terms?
I do agree with term limits. I agree with term limits. I don't see why there's an issue with term limits. And I understand the opposition of the term limits that my opponent had. I heard him when he spoke, and I listened to it. And I know sometimes when I'm listening or and that kind of things, I have emotions on my sleeve. I get it, and I make faces. But I was listening very intently, and that's why I do it. And I lean in. I support term limits, and you have to remember my last job. I grew up in a world of we moved around every 4 years. That was kind of like a term. It is, but there was very seldom a time when you could get what we call extended. You could get an extra time, but there was very seldom you spent longer than 5 or 6 years at a place. And I think the longer you're there, the more you figure out and you become part of the problem. Just like anywhere. So that's why personally, you asked me what I believe. So these are all my opinions.
Sure.
The longer you're in a job and don't progress, so you don't go from the worker to the supervisor to the manager to you keep going, it's almost you become part of the problem. So if you don't have a different perspective, how are you going to move forward? So if you're running the county for 12 to 16 years, how is that county going to move forward? Because now you're part of the machine and you're running it a certain way, and you're trying to run it a certain way, which is your way now at this point, and you're not going to move forward because now you're stuck in this cycle. That's just how it works. And again, my last job, we would move, and you had 3 to 4 years to make permanent positive change. We see it all the time. The ones that don't make permanent positive change, they're fired. And you see it in the papers all the time. Loss of confidence. They're let go. They don't make it. They don't make the next job title, and they force retire. They have to get out, right? So you keep doing what you're supposed to do, and you keep affecting that permanent positive change. You're going to keep going on. And I know my opponent said that, it's going to be a 2-year learning curve and experience matters. That's why we have off election years. You have those 2 years. I think we should all remember he was also new when he took the job 12 years ago. He learned. But I do agree with term limits. It's 8 years for me to 2 terms. If our president can't serve more than 2 terms, that's the highest office in our land. Why should our county commissioner be able to serve more than that? Why should, state reps? And I definitely believe in that. And that's, government should not be a career. You should be a servant of the people, and because that's what you want to do.
Okay. So say, for instance, you have 8 years to fulfill your term. What are your goals? Where do you want to see the county in 8 years?
Well, I'd like to see the county
or District 5.
Sure. No. So let's make no bones about how the county's set up. District 5 is going to elect their next, as my opponent, report card. Well, the report card's coming due, right? So I wholeheartedly believe November 5th, the county's going to elect a new District 5 county commissioner. District 5 will elect county commissioner November 5th. Well, when that happens, it's going to say District 5 representative, but that representative is Escambia County commissioner.
Right.
Well, that vote happens across the county.
Yes.
So I think you're right for asking the question of where I see the county. I hear so many times, it takes 3. It takes 3. Why? Why does it take 3?
3 votes, you mean? Because there's 5 commissioners.
Why can we not get this county And why does it have to be these, what I hear, this is a new term for me since I started running, why do we have to hear kingdoms? I've heard that. I don't know if you've ever heard this.
No.
They operate in districts as little kingdoms.
Oh.
Why can't this county operate
Like they're
as
the
a
king of
county?
their district.
Yeah. Why can't this county operate as a county? Why are we looking for 3 votes? Why can't we get 5?
Mm-hmm.
If it's good for the people of this county, why can't this county succeed and the people get what's needed? Why do we only need 3? Why are we ousting the other 2 districts?
That's a good question. I
So
have no idea.
you asking me what my vision is, in not in 8 years, but in 6 years, to change the vision to be county driven and for every district to get what they need in reference to the areas I spoke about before, and represent the people of the entire county, and then start looking and moving forward in that direction. So in that 8, and so at the end of that, you want to ask me that number 3 question again? It's not just one life that was affected. We have now, as a collective whole and as elected leadership, we have affected many lives. And then I can come back and answer that number 3 question that you asked about whatever as an elected official, what was your biggest accomplishment? And it's affecting the lives of people moving forward.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that helped answer that question, but that's where I see the
I
county
understand.
back to them.
Yeah, I see your determination to get everybody on the same page. You know, that's what a good coach would do. Looking at everybody as a team. You're on my team, no matter what you believe, no matter what your background is. You know, that's what a good leader does. You know, we're on the same team, we're on the same page, we're all working for each other, we're working for the good of the community. But you have some people and some issues, and I can't think of an issue offhand to give you an example, but some people are just going to think differently, and they're going to vote differently on a certain issue. Like, say, for instance, a mask mandate, okay? So during that's a good example.
Sure.
You're going to have 2 or 3 people
Probably
vote a certain way, and then you're going to have 2 or 3 people vote, you know, either for or against it. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, we had boards. I know this. I don't know if the county commission vote. I don't even remember. I think they voted to impose a countywide mask mandate. Either that or the city council did, and then school board didn't vote for it. I was at that meeting. They voted against a school-wide mask mandate. But that's something that you're going to get a split vote on the county and city.
Okay. So, and I understand that, but I get that. And so I definitely understand that. And was that a question of prying to see where I would land on the mask
Maybe.
mandate?
Yeah.
Okay. So you would know better about how the county voted on a mask mandate than I would. My history with COVID-19, I'll tell you exactly where I was.
All I remember is that everybody had to wear a mask, and no matter where you were, and if you didn't wear a mask inside the grocery store, you were asked to leave. It was just crazy.
Sure. Well, the reason I don't know about it, and I'm going to tell you why.
You weren't here.
I spent 206 days at sea with no ports. I was part of a record on the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. It's called the COVID cruise.
Okay.
It's not a cruise.
Wow.
It's not a record you ever want, by the way. But
It's not the type of cruise you want to really take.
But due to COVID, we never pulled into port or anything like that. So, but with how the county voted. But I'll tell you about the mask mandate, and I've been around a lot of people in my life. For me to sit as an elected official and say, you will do this and you will do that, I think this is why I don't align either way.
Or even if you pose it a different way, like if you said, this is for your own good and the good of everybody around you.
But also, let's say mask mandates. Let's say, hey, these masks may or may not filter whatever needs to be done. If you want to precaution yourself, wear one. That's it.
Or if you're sick,
Are we-
wear one.
Yes.
Because if you cough or sneeze, it will prevent something
Sure.
from getting through.
Sure. So I guess where I'm going with that is, do we want more government, or do we want more regulations, or do we want less? Do we want to be free, or do we want to be told what to do?
We do not want our First Amendment rights infringed upon, which is what a mask mandate would do.
Okay. I'm with you.
Yeah.
So, but then we can't. But on the other side of that coin, you don't want to ridicule the ones that do wear the mask.
Sure. No, absolutely.
Right.
No.
So I don't think it's the government's responsibility to say you have to do this one thing,
Or you can't do this one thing.
and or you cannot do this, right? Or make a stigmatism one way or the other.
Right.
So I think it's up
agree
to
with
the
that.
people.
Yeah. I can definitely respect that answer. And same thing with the vaccines, like mandated vaccines, totally infringing upon our rights, our medical freedom. If somebody wants to get a vaccine, let them get the vaccine. That's their body, their choice. If I don't want to get the vaccine, I do not want to be told, or frowned upon because I don't want to get the vaccine. And a lot of people feel that way.
Sure.
I think over half the population feels that way.
Right.
So
No.
thanks for your answer.
Yeah, I'm with it. And then you start seeing how closely tied government is with everything, right? Oh, you can't make a flight unless you have your vaccine card.
Yeah.
Well, you start looking at how is that? Well, because the government's tied into it. You start looking at can't take a train ride, you can't get on a cruise boat, you can't do. Well,
Yeah.
why? Because there's subsidies involved. And I anyway.
Really it really greatly infringes upon our rights as human beings to make our own decisions regarding medical and First Amendment rights. So flooding is an issue pretty much all over the county. First off, do you know why we're flooding? Well, one of the reasons.
Because it's raining.
Well,
No, I'm just kidding.
I think we're flooding because there's no permeable ground anymore. Everything's concreted over. And are you familiar with Old Bridge Road in Cantonment? It's off Jack's Branch Road. It's probably like 2 or 3 miles north of Jack's Branch, where it begins from Muskogee Road. So Old Bridge Road is made of a permeable road material. And you go out there and you pour a gallon of water on the road and it seeps right in. And as far as I know, that road is holding up. It was well built, and there's no flooding in that area because of that road that I know of. I think that as we build new roads and parking lots, they need to be made out of permeable material. And as we replace disrepaired roads and parking lots, they need to be repaired and replaced with permeable material. Because you concrete over everything, it does not matter how many drainage pipes you have. The drainage pipes go down to the bay. They go under our roads and under our streets and under our houses down to the bay. And then once the bay, once the tidal surge gets to a certain level, it goes higher than the outcome of those pipes, and then those pipes back up, and it causes more flooding. Retention ponds fill up and overflow. In 2014, we had 8 or 10 retention ponds around Pensacola that filled up and overflowed and caused flooding in neighborhoods. So we need more permeable ground. We need more green space, and we need more. But the green space is it's all new development now. It's all new roads and new subdivisions. They're clear cutting entire forests, and they're building neighborhoods, and there's no more green space. And that's the only way to prevent flooding.
So when I made a joke about the rain. However, when you start cutting down and you're talking about green space, and you're talking about the retention ponds, and you're talking about going into the bay, everything you said, from the hours and hours of information, I call it drinking from a fire hose, that I have been receiving.
Drinking from a fire hose.
About flooding and stormwater. Accurate. So
I've lived it.
Let's clear cut this.
Right.
There's no trees, there's no roots, there's nothing to absorb this water.
Oh, we'll just
And
build
then-
10 more
there you go.
retention ponds downtown.
But the guidance
No.
that we're using to build those retention ponds is outdated. The information I'm getting is it's outdated, and the rainfall data that is outdated from actually the rainfall data that they're using to build that retention pond to what it is now is the actual rainfall data is 2.79 inches higher than what the data is they're using for that. So
I think we're clear cutting and expanding and building houses in communities and neighborhoods and subdivisions a lot more faster than we could even keep up with that data to begin with. Though.
sure. But well, first of all, we're already 2.79 inches
Away from it.
below,
Yeah.
right? So now you take that over 1,000 acres that's now not being able to soak in that rainfall, and it's being pushed down. That retention pond's it's not doing anything.
Right.
So as that ground's not able to soak it up, like you talk about impermeable surfaces, right? The houses, the roads, the sidewalks,
lots.
the
Yeah.
parking lots, the whatever's there. Back to the infrastructure comment I made in the very beginning, we have stormwater infrastructure. Well, it all goes to the bay, and you're absolutely correct on that. What about when you have a road or a neighborhood that's designed and there's wetlands, and and there's a possibility that they could go in there, clear cut the wetlands area, let it dry for a month or two, and maybe a dry season, and then come back and certify it that it's not a wetland, and then it becomes a wetland. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's happening. I'm just
Right.
using that as an example. A lot of these maps that I've looked at with potential Beulah Road extension, straightening out Kingsfield Road, there's clearly defined wetlands there. That was in 2016. Clearly defined. I have the maps. They're TPO maps. I have future TPO maps that forecast out
So
to
you'd either have to go
2025.
around those
That's not what it
that
shows.
way, or, well, I mean, if they wanted to redo the maps, they'd have to.
That's not what it shows.
It shows them going through the wetlands.
I can show you the maps.
Wow.
I can show you the maps.
Well, that's illegal.
So, green space. There's actually a state website that you can contact. It's FDEP, and you can turn some property into state green spaces that will actually keep our diverse how we are up, and especially mid to North County.
Yeah.
It keeps that green space and keeps it there. But why haven't we entertained that?
Right, because everybody's just so into to growth and expansion and development.
We have to grow. And that's
course.
true. But
we have
we
to
have
do
to be
it.
smart and manageable about it. Really be smart and manageable. It's not a campaign slogan. We have to be smart. We have to be manageable. You have to have the trees. You have to have the shaded areas. You have to have the areas for our children to continue to play. You have to have the areas for our elderly to go and have a place to go and congregate and to crossword puzzles together or whatever. I mean, I'll be there one day, and maybe hopefully I won't do crossword puzzles. But I'm just saying that we need to be the community. I'm not going to do it when there's no trees or shade around.
Yeah, and trees also help with the temperature
That's right. That's where I was going with this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, shade.
because it gets really hot.
And that's as part of the the watershed that you referred to. Is there's nothing to soak this up. There's nothing, and it just keeps going down. So I call it. I live in the mountains of Scambia, is what I call it. I think it's 198 feet above sea level. So all of that is
Yeah.
coming south to here.
Yeah, because it's a gradual slope. Because there's no hill. I mean, you look that way. There's no hills.
Right.
It's a gradual slope down to the bay.
And if nothing can absorb it, it's coming to you.
Yeah, it does.
Sorry.
So, regarding your time in the military, I just want to ask some personal questions, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, where all were you stationed, and what is your favorite station port that you were at?
Port?
Yeah, and what were you doing?
Let's see. I'll just run through the list. let's see. I joined out of Lake Mary, Florida, and I went to Great Lakes for a boot camp, and then I headed to for here. I came to Pensacola to do my training, my very first school, and that was great. And then I went to Roosevelt Roads, Puerto Rico for my first station.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then I went to Virginia Beach, Virginia. And then from there, I went to the USS Enterprise aircraft carrier. I left the Enterprise and went to the USS Truman, Harry Truman.
Where was the Enterprise?
It was in Norfolk.
Okay.
It was based out of Norfolk.
Okay.
Then I went to the USS Harry S. Truman as an aircraft carrier. Left there, went back to Oceana, NAS Oceana, which is in Virginia Beach. Transferred from there to, VFA 106 is a fighter squadron. And then I did some rides on the USS Bush carrier. Left the 106, went to the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, and then came down here to NATSE at Pensacola, and then I went to the international command here on base, and I could tell you the acronym, but it's NETSAFA for short, and to explain that, it's where the horrible incident happened this year will be 5 years ago.
Right.
Very, very amazing command, but learned a lot about way outside of my mechanic. But I got the privilege of being the senior enlisted leader there for Captain Testa, and I'm going to call him out here on name, but Jinx.
Right.
My favorite port would have been Croatia, and we
Interesting.
went there to give a family of a sailor his Medal of Honor back in 2006.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'd like to have you back on once you're elected.
Oh, I'd be glad to be here. Thank you.
So the Thornton Review is on the air to provide a public service awareness and an intellectual infrastructure to our community. This show is made possible by Ida Gates Godly Teas LLC, Alpha Fence Company, and our guest, Joshua Roberson, candidate for Escambia County Commission District 5. It was a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We want to thank you for watching this episode of the Thornton Review. Bye-bye. You can watch our program on Pensacola Urban Network, Praise TV on WBQP 12.1, WBQP 12.8 Sundays and Wednesdays at 6 p.m., WBQP Praise TV on Roku Television Network, or download Praise TV on Google Play Store or Amazon Fire. Our website, thethorntonreview.com, and our Facebook page, The Thornton Review Show.